Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. For me, it is 3:33 p.m. on December 7th, 2013, and this is the video for December the 8th. However, the topic is about December 7th. And of course, this is Aristo did his video, which went up today, and that's the December 7th video officially. But I'm doing this one on Pearl Harbor Day. And the title that I selected just past 3 o'clock was Shut Down All Corporations Violating Human Rights. And I wrote this blurb. Today is the day 27 years ago when Japan was lured into attacking Pearl Harbor. It was not a surprise attack for those in the White House and Pentagon. It was planned, just like every other event of that nature. The corporate heads of the U.S. corporate government have long planned such crimes against humanity, and every war is a crime against humanity. If there was ever a worldwide goal for the people of the world, it would be to shut down all corporations violating human rights and committing crimes against humanity, especially multinational corporations, international banking conglomerates, and corporations posing as governments. I had hoped that would happen in 2011, then 2012, and it does not look as if it will happen this year either. May enough people rise up in the months ahead to accomplish that awesome task, to give the multitudes a chance to establish justice and peace on earth. May God help us. I chuckle because when I finished that, it was about quarter after 20 after 3, knowing that I was going to start at 3:33, I started looking at my emails, and I got an email from Mark Elsis on loveearth.net, and the subject matter in the emails was Pearl Harbor, and I look at it, and it's Robert Stinnett, Day of Deceit video, The Truth About FDR and Pearl Harbor. FDR provoked the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. Sacrifice at Pearl Harbor, BBC documentary. Pearl Harbor attack, no surprise. December 7th, 1941, a setup from the beginning. Pearl Harbor, Roosevelt knew, a day that will live in infamy. A president who should live in infamy. Pearl Harbor, FDR knew. The American and British governments knew, down to the day of the coming Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, and let it happen to justify American entry into World War II, exonerating Pearl Harbor's scapegoats. Robert Stinnett, Day of Deceit. He has that one twice. Pearl Harbor, mother of all conspiracies. The day that should have lived in infamy. Pearl Harbor was an inside job. FDR not only knew about the attack in advance, but his administration did everything it could to cause a Japanese attack on America. The McCollum Memo, Pearl Harbor, and U.S. involvement in World War II. That's synchronicity, folks. I mean, before I knew this email was coming, which came a little bit after 3 o'clock my time when I wasn't even looking at my emails, I was working on my laptop, not my desktop computer where my emails come in. In any case, to have that email come in synchronistically at the time that I'm preparing to talk on that very subject is, to me, quite amazing. And of course, what triggered it was thinking about the things that Aristo said in today's video, which of course was recorded yesterday, in regard to Hitler, that it was Prescott Bush and people within the American government that were actually financing the Nazis while Germany was bombing London in World War II. All of this stuff was pre-planned. They pre-plan, when I say they, I mean the people that want to control the world, pre-plan everything. Every major event that gets major headlines and the mainstream media carries it around the world, every one of those events is a planned event. Nothing is a surprise. If it happens, it was planned to happen. The criminals are the people that run the multinational corporations, the international banks, and the governments that pose as, or the corporations, I should say, that pose as governments. Yes, all governments in the world, with perhaps a handful of exceptions, are corporations run by the banking conglomerate of the world. That's simply the way it is. You don't want to believe it? Wake up. Because it's not a conspiracy theory, it's conspiracy truth. The leaders of our world have conspired against humanity for eons of time and have accelerated that in our lifetime, the lifetime that we're living in. For me, I wasn't born yet in 1941. I was born 5 years later, in 1946. But in any case, it has affected my entire life. It has affected the life of everyone that lives on this planet at this time and has lived during this time frame. These people that want to rule the world have come close to actually achieving their goal. The one thing that stands in the way of them achieving the goal is the awakening of the human population, the awakening of people like you and like me and others that are finally starting to get that the things that are happening in our world are insane because they are planned by insane people, also known as sociopaths, also known as psychopaths. And this is the mentality, this is the spiritual awareness of these individuals who pull these things together, who create chaos, because out of chaos they want to create a system of domination that will dominate the world. The awakening has actually been happening for a long time, but it got into high gear as far as I'm concerned with the 9th wave of the Mayan calendar, which started in February 2011. And that's when I started my videos, just prior to that time, and I've been doing them ever since, trying my very best to awaken people to the realities of our world so that we can make a different choice. And there's an awful lot of people that don't want to acknowledge the truth, don't even want to hear it. They want to stay in their nice little comfort zone and think that everything is going to somehow fix itself all by itself just by ignoring the truth about our world. But if you keep ignoring it, it will not go away. I mean, I am absolutely convinced that the only way to stop ignorance and darkness and the crimes is to bring them to the people's attention on as wide a scale as is humanly possible. And the powers that want to continue to control the world do everything in their power not to allow that to happen. They made one fatal error: the internet. And the internet is the media. This is where you will have an opportunity to hear the truth and to learn the truth about our world. Unlike the mainstream media, which is still 99% controlled by the powers that want to control everything, and they march lockstep, because those are things that need to be shut down. The press that still exists is a multinational corporation. It's a conglomerate, and it works together for the common goal of a fascist new world order in which people do not have any rights, in which people only exist to serve the elite and everyone else is kept in poverty. There is a huge awakening that's been happening as the underworlds opened in 2011 and as people began the process of recognizing that it's the 1% of the world that's causing the problems for the 99% in the Occupy movement. And then in 2012, we had a continuation and an escalation of awakening as more and more people became aware, and as the OPPT papers were being prepared to actually foreclose on these corporations and calling it what it is: crimes against humanity, human slave trade, telling the truth about it. Heather did an outstanding job, and the other trustees, but primarily Heather, for the OPPT. They did not follow through. The Swiss Indo people are following through. I was invited to have an interview with Kate of Gaia. Kate has actually wanted to do an interview with me, and someone else is now acting as an intermediary. But Kate of Gaia does not believe that the OPPT was valid, does not believe that anything, I guess, is valid except claiming you don't have a name. And what Kate is sharing, I've listened to the videos, they are valid. I'm not saying they are not valid. But what I am saying is that they're all valid. And I'm not into having an interview with anybody that I'm going to be arguing with them, because I support Kate of Gaia in what she is doing. And I support all of the freedom fighters that are trying to stand up for truth and justice and bring peace to the planet and bring the planet back into lawfulness based on universal law, on common law, based on the truth that the maxims of law indicate, that truth is the primary thing. In our current system, in the corporate system, truth has nothing to do with it. Law has nothing to do with it. It's all about control. It's all about manipulation and coercion. None, listen to me, none of the contracts that are created by government are valid contracts because they fail in the principles of what a contract is. A contract must have agreement between the parties, and there can be no fraud. There can be nothing withheld from the parties. The conditions and the terms must be put up front. That has never happened with any adhesion contract created by the government. And people say you've got to close these contracts and invalidate these contracts. No, the contract is invalid on its face. There's nothing anybody should ever have to do with a false contract. Nothing. Ignore it. But they don't want us to ignore it. And so we have to shut down the governments as they have existed, that is, privately owned corporations for the profit of a handful of families around the world and a bunch of prostitutes, whores that work for these people that think they're doing right, but all of the police, all of the smaller corporations that play into this false monetary system and this system of control, all of them are committing criminal acts and are accountable. The Pope even removed the immunity from the corporate veil. He tore it down from his position as Pope, and Roman law and admiralty law and maritime law are basically null and void according to papal decree. Now, I don't want to argue with anybody on what the Pope's intention was. You know, there's all sorts of reasons he might have done that, not least of which is to try to save some face for the Catholic Church that was getting smeared with all of its pedophile rings and all of its corruption. It has been corrupt from the beginning. It is also a corporation that, as it has existed, needs to be shut down. Now, am I saying that we can't have businesses? Am I saying that we can't have governments? Am I saying that we can't have churches and nations? No, I'm not saying that at all. Those are structures. The problem with the structure is that it's a corporate structure in which the people that are at the head of the structures have no accountability. That's the part that needs to be stopped. That's the part that needs to be ended, and we need to return the world to a basic lawfulness based on do no harm, cause no loss, and do not violate the free will of another. The governments and the corporations violate people's free will all the time. Everything is about control. It's not even about money, as Aristo said in our conversation yesterday. It's not even about money. It's about control and domination. And this is what we need to call on God to help strengthen us inside of ourselves. It has to happen inside of ourselves to build up that strength to stand in truth, to stand in righteousness, to stand in love, to stand for justice and for mercy and for a system that works as much as it can for everybody, leaving no one behind, leaving no one out. One that feeds the poor and makes sure that everyone has their basic human rights met, and that returns the value of the people to the people, because it's our value. And this is something that needs to be a primary goal. And this is something that we need to agree upon, to work together to accomplish this, because we cannot have peace on earth as long as these corporations that violate human rights are allowed to continue to exist in the same manner in which they have been existing over the past decades of our lives. We need to change that, folks, and I'm encouraging each and every one of you to learn as much as you can learn, and to stand with those people, all of those people, regardless of where they are. Stand with Kate of Gaia if that resonates with you. Stand with Jacomar if that resonates with you. Stand with the OPPT if that resonates with you. Stand with Swiss Indo if that resonates with you. Stand with whoever, the New World Order, the Ubuntu movement, all of these, the Foster Gamble, the Thrive movement. Stand with the people that are trying to make a difference, with Karen Hudas. It's not about being right or wrong. It's not about having all the correct answers. It's about having a common goal. And I would like to encourage you to make our common goal the shutting down of all for-profit corporations that violate human rights and commit crimes against humanity for the sake of profit and for the sake of control. This needs to end, and we need to work together toward that end as much as we possibly can to accomplish the mission of establishing peace on earth. Thank you for listening. Namaste.